The Vikings are steamrollering through your country with seemingly unstoppable force. What do? You build some strong fortifications and you make sure you've got enough soldiers to man the walls. That's what you do, and that's what Alfred the Great and his son Edward the Elder did in the second half of the 9th and early part of the 10th century as they tried to stand up to the onslaughts of the Viking armies from Scandinavia. There had been 4 Anglo-Saxon kingdoms: Wessex, Mercia, East Anglia and Northumbria, when King Alfred was born in the year 849. When he died in 899, all but Wessex had been overrun by the Vikings and their kings killed or exiled. In the year 878, Alfred finally managed to score a victory against the Vikings at the Battle of Edington, and that brought some temporary respite to the embattled Anglo-Saxons. Over the next few years, Alfred made military improvements to shore up the defences of his kingdom. That included building a network of fortified towns or burhs and doubling down on the military obligations of his followers to ensure that he had the soldiers to man them. One of these burhs was here at Cricklade in the Upper Thames Valley, and in Alfred's time it would have been on the border of Wessex and Mercia. The Thames here is just a few miles down from its source, so it's an infant river, not the mighty channel that we see in London, but it was still probably navigable, and Cricklade was a key crossing point. Alfred was famously great, and that moniker was in part because he was a great military reformer and organiser. We know about these burhs, by the way, because of a document called the Burgle Hidage. It's a list of 30-odd burhs across southern England and an assessment of how many troops each required and the amount of land that was needed to support those troops. It's not a classic page-turner, but it has allowed historians and archaeologists to spend a lot of time thinking about the defensive network that was developed at the time. And here we are, Cricklade's mighty Anglo-Saxon walls. Oh, damn it, there's nothing left. I'm 1,000 years too late. All we've got is a shallow depression in the grass. But I, for one, I'm quite a fan of shallow depressions in the grass, and I think this is a very interesting place to visit. We know the outline of the Anglo-Saxon fortified burh. It had a playing card-shaped outer wall, and then within that there was a grid-like structure of streets. Initially, the fort was an earth bank, 10 metres wide and 3 metres high, probably with a wooden palisade and corner turrets and a stone-paved walkway behind. Then, in the early 10th century, the defences were heightened and strengthened. There was probably a stone wall built with a wall walk along the top of it. Perhaps they decided to strengthen the walls because there was a Danish raiding party that crossed the Thames here in circa 902, a few years after the death of Alfred the Great, and by then his son Edward the Elder was on the throne. Edward's reign very much displeased a chap called Ethelwald, who was a nephew of Alfred the Great. Ethelwald had rebelled. He'd formed an alliance with the Vikings, and in the early years of the 10th century he'd brought a force here to Cricklade and set about ravaging the royal lands around the place. It's all recorded in the Anglo-Saxon chronicles. Unluckily for Ethelwald, he was killed in a battle shortly afterwards and broadly disappears from history, though he does have a starring role in the Last Kingdom series. Destiny is all, and all that. So why are the walls gone? Well, we can probably blame another Viking, Canute, for that. We have to skip forward a century to get to him. In the early years of the 11th century, there was another period of existential crisis for Anglo-Saxon England, as yet another round of Viking invasions was in process. Canute was at its head, and in 1016 he led an army across the Thames here at Cricklade. Canute soon acceded to the throne of England, and it might have been after that that the defences here were slighted to stop anyone who was unhappy about Canute's new order from using this defended town as a base of resistance. So the walls here were created to defend against the Vikings, did their job for a while, even against rebels within, but eventually they were captured and destroyed by the Vikings themselves.